Hi there, kindergarten. Mrs. Templeton again. We are going to do a read aloud today. I'm going to read a story to you today called Curious George Makes Pancakes. Now, this book is by Margaret and H.A. Ray, and Curious George is a character that I'm sure many of you have heard of or even have read before. Touch your nose if you have read a Curious George book or even have Curious George books at home. We love Curious George books in our house. They're super silly because George is a silly little monkey. So this week we have a new essential question, and this would be hanging up in our classroom. Our essential question this week is, why is it important to try hard? Why is it important to try hard? Now, this week at school, at homeschool, I'm sure you guys have been trying so hard to get your work done, to be good listeners, to follow directions, and to do your very best. So we're going to read about George today, who tries very hard, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to move me up here a little bit. Oops, here we go. Curious George makes pancakes. And if you've ever read a Curious George book, you know that every single Curious George book starts the same way. And it starts with these two sentences. This is George. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. One morning, the man with the yellow hat woke George early. "Time to get up, George," he said. "The pancake breakfast is today." George loved the pancake breakfast. It was a fundraiser held every year to make money for special programs at the Children's Hospital. Beside eating pancakes, there were all kinds of games to play. Even the mayor came to play and eat, but first he gave a welcome speech. So you can kind of see the mayor on the stage over here. "Thank you all for coming," the mayor said. "We appreciate your generous support." He thanked all the volunteers who were helping that day, and finally he said, "Please enjoy yourselves and the pancakes." When the mayor finished, the man with the yellow hat said, "George, I'm going to buy our tickets. Please wait here and don't be too curious." So I'm going to pause for a second, and I want you to think about what curious means. We've talked about that word before. Curious means you're very interested, kind of a little bit nosy maybe, but you really want to know what's going on somewhere else. You're interested in finding out more. So George waited like a good little monkey, but something smelled good. Could it be pancakes? George was curious. He followed the delicious smell and found a whole griddle full of pancakes. George watched as a man poured little batter circles and flipped them up in the air. It looked like fun to make pancakes. George wanted to help. On a table near the griddle was a basket full of blueberries. These pancakes need blueberries, George thought, and he sprinkled some on top. Meanwhile, the man at the griddle was so busy he didn't notice the little monkey helping him. But the line grew and grew. George's pancakes were a hit. Soon everyone wanted them, and the man could not keep up. "Please wait," he said to someone holding an empty plate. "I need to find an assistant to help me." And just like that, he was gone. So the cook, or the chef right here, left to go find some help. George looked at the people waiting in line and then at the empty griddle. Why, he could make pancakes. He could be the assistant. George poured the batter into nice round circles. Next he added blueberries. He waited just a minute to let the pancakes cool. Then he flipped them over. And last he added syrup. Do you see what he's doing with the pancakes there? Or the blueberries, making a little smiley face? The line for pancakes was enormous. But with 4 hands, George made quite a chef, and no one's plate was empty for long. So he's using his hands and his legs. "I've been coming to this breakfast for years," a man said, "but I've never seen pancakes made like this before. I've never eaten this many pancakes before," said a girl. I didn't even like pancakes before, said another girl, and they all lined up for more. When the man returned with his new assistant, he was shocked to see a monkey making pancakes. "This is no place for a monkey," he yelled, and he began to chase George. So look at George's face. He's probably not feeling very curious right now. He looks a little bit scared or sad. George hadn't meant to cause trouble. He only wanted to help. Now he only wanted to get away. Quickly, George found a place to hide, and the man and his assistant ran right by. But where did George go? Look very carefully, see if you see him. God, he's right here. He's hanging up with the stuffed animals, trying to camouflage. When it was safe to come out, George jumped down. He was covered in syrup like a pancake, and he was sticking to everything. George was curious. Could these napkins help him get clean? What do you think? Do you think that'll help, or do you think that'll make it worse? Yeah, I think it might make it a little worse since he's so sticky. The napkins might stick to him. Oh, he can't get them off. So first it was 1 and 2, and then he got all these these napkins stuck to him. No, the napkins only made it worse. What George needed was some water to wash with. Why, here was the perfect thing. George climbed up. Have you guys ever seen one of these before at a festival? It's like a dunk tank. This would do the trick for a sticky monkey. George sat on the bench and splashed himself with water. But all of a sudden, I'm going to pause there, and I want you to make a prediction or take a guess of what's going to happen. He's in a dunk tank. He doesn't know it's a dunk tank. He thinks it's just some water, and he's at a festival. So what do you think? Splash! George was in the water. What a surprise. George climbed up again and splashed back down. He'd never been in a dunk tank before, and he'd never had so much fun getting clean. Soon, everyone was having fun, and the line at the dunk tank grew even longer than the line for pancakes. Later, the mayor came by. "I've heard all about your delicious pancakes," he said. "You've made our fundraiser a big success, and I have a special favor to ask you." At the end of the day, George got to present the money from the fundraiser to the president of the hospital. "Thanks to you, George, this has been our best year ever," she said. "Will you come back and make pancakes again next year?" George nodded, and everyone cheered. The end. So I want you to think about our essential question to go along with our story about George. Why is it important to try hard? Now, back at the beginning, when George was helping make the pancakes, he thought he was really doing something nice. He really wanted to help and, make sure everybody got pancakes quickly. But the chef and his assistant did not like the idea of a monkey making their food. So they yelled at him. He ran away. He probably got a little bit scared. So if that happened, it would have made sense for George to just quit and to stop and say, "I'm not going to do anything else. I made a big mess and everyone's mad at me." But instead, George got into that dunk tank. I don't think he realized what he was doing, but he kept trying to make people happy and to try again. So once he got into the dunk tank, everyone loved seeing a monkey in there, and they all took turns to try to dunk George the monkey, and he really helped to raise a lot of money for the festival. For the fundraiser. So why is it important to try hard? Because sometimes things are going to be tricky. And if we quit each time, then we'll never get better. We'll never learn new things. We'll never get better at what we try. So I tell my boys this a lot. There's a lot of things that are hard to do. And if you keep trying and keep trying to get better at it, eventually it'll get easier for you and it'll be something you are able to do by yourself, okay? So we never want to quit. Sometimes we might have to take a break. We might get frustrated and it might not be easy for us, but then we can just come back another time and try again, and who knows, you might be able to pick up on that new skill that you've been practicing. All right. All right, friends. I will be back soon with another story. Bye bye.